So now we have Blade 2. A pretty interesting movie by its own right. So let's not waste any time and get onto this plot. 2 years after the first movie, a virus is going around the vampire community known as the Reaper virus. It's turning vampires into Reapers, ravenous beasts immune to the other weaknesses of vampires outside of really strong UV sunlight. With no other choice, the vampires recruit Blade to help them out, seek the source of the infection, and eliminate all the Reapers to protect their communities. Okay, that's a pretty cool concept. Right then and there, we have Blade fighting alongside his former enemies. A classic concept, something that shows up in pretty much everything over time, but still always pretty cool to see. Despite all this movie is where the franchise starts to go a bit downhill. While it's certainly a watchable movie, it isn't as good as the first one. It's still a lot better than the third one, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So first off, Blade feels like he's barely in the movie. He's barely a focus of the movie. He doesn't feel as important as in the first movie outside of his role as a vampire hunter. We never really get that much more new insight into his character. We never really get to see that much more of him outside of him doing really cool stuff. It's just these new characters. He's still his cold, somewhat off-putting apparent badass self, and he barely emotes unlike last time, but unlike last time, he doesn't really have a lot of characters to bounce off of in a emotional sense. The focus of this movie is the new characters, these vampires that they put on Blade's team to hunt down the Reapers, and they are the focus of the movie, basically so that you can put a name to the face when the bodies start to drop, and so you can put a name to the face when one of them does their inevitable betrayal. Feels like it's just going through the motions for this whole thing, at least in terms of characters. Also, Whistler's alive again, despite him sort of dying in the last movie. It's kind of explained in this one, but not really well. As for the Reapers themselves, the main thread of the movie, they ultimately feel wasted. I would have loved for the story to focus more on the effects of the Reapers on the world of the vampires, outside of their threat need to be taken care of, and the main villain's ultimate reasoning for creating them, basically just to make vampires stronger by turning them into monstrous beasts. He feels more in line with the Resident Evil villain, and not really too much a villain for these films. Now that everything bad is out of the way, the very concept of Reapers is, as I stated earlier, pretty cool, and the fights against them are cool. Having everything we know rendered useless in the face of a new enemy, and then having the almighty vampires we witnessed in the first movie having something that even they struggle against is cool. Hell, it's so cool that JoJo's did it years before. Gotta make JoJo's references when you can, people. And while Blade's vampire allies ultimately feel useless, the concept of Blade having to fight alongside his heated enemies is still a cool idea. Well, when I think about it, this movie can be summed up like that. A bunch of cool concepts that ultimately just failed to form in their execution. If this wasn't a sign of the inevitable decline of this franchise, then I don't know what is. Maybe the producers should have realized that before they made Blade 3, and we wouldn't have had to waste our time with it later on. But that, my friends, is a story for another day.